Salt is one of the most universal rocks around, not only where it's found, but also many of its wide uses. Salt is proven to be more than just something that you add to your fries or to a dinner plate, but also in the preservation of foods and even people. In many ways, salt has actually kept alive civilizations that lived a long time ago, in particular the Egyptians. Now I know what you all think of when you hear Egyptians, pharaohs, pyramids, carvings, but rarely do you ever associate salt with this ancient civilization. Salt not only helped the people individually by its preservation aspects, but also helped boost the economy and increase trade. Salt, of course, was used in feasts as well, which is pretty well known for salt for foods. Along with salt, the Egyptians used garlic and onions for medicinal purposes. They believed that, quote, onion layers resembled the concentric circles of the universe. Onions and garlic were a main source of food for many of the poor groups, along with beer and unraised bread. The diets throughout the Egyptian civilization are quite varied, but one thing the Egyptians had that many other civilizations didn't have was the knowledge of curing meat and fish with salt. They must have had some knowledge of how salt worked in order to know that salt takes up the water where bacteria thrives and also kills it. The Egyptians were also the inventors of raised bread, and for many this should ring a little bell. If you are Jewish, most of you know how Moses liberated the Hebrew slaves from the Egyptians, and instead of making raised bread, the Jews used unleavened bread or matzah. This bread is often referred to as the bread of the poor. Contrary to popular belief, the Jewish people might have used matzah instead of regular bread not only to save time, but also as a symbol of their rejection of Egyptian society and further stating their newly granted freedom. Having experienced Passover recently, I think I know what it's like to not have bread for days on end, and it's not fun. Now you might be asking yourself, where did they even get all this salt? Well, one way was in dry lake beds in the Sahara provided an ample amount of salt. Of course, crossing the treacherous desert wasn't a pleasurable thing to do, which is probably why it was considered more of a luxury than today. In fact, the earliest journeys across the Sahara date back to around 1000 BC by oxen or horse-drawn chariots. These were eventually replaced by the more well-known camel, which actually originated in North America until it became extinct in that region around 2 million years ago. Whether it's in your dinner plate or in a barren desert, these are some of the ways in which salt has aided the overall growth of the human race. Its myriad of uses have come from all over the world, from Africa to Europe to the Americas, but salt has done more than that. I think that the underlying theme in salt is that it shows how much good can come from such a little source, that to never underestimate something or someone's potential because you never know if it might change the world.